So, apparently Oscar Isaac now looks like the theoretical person of whom Bruce Campbell is a caricature. Yeah, I just saw Rise of Skywalker. Good times. First of all, I want to say I loved all the Sith nonsense. There was a lot of it in this movie. Like, of all the concepts in the entirety of science fiction, uh, the one thing that I cherish even above Jedi stuff is Sith stuff. In large part, that's because Sith stuff is like the Jedi stuff, which is in itself inimitable as a concept. But where Sith stuff uh, leans far more heavily um, towards romanticism, where uh, Jedi like code often veers off towards the like austere ideals of Enlightenment philosophy. You know, like look, obviously, a lot of Sith are villains, um, but at its core, the Sith tenets emphasize passion and self-expression, and these are the things that, to me, make the best art. You know, so like the Jedi characters in the movies were generally easier to identify with. You know, like Anakin's a great example of that. Like I love Anakin. I can relate to that dude. Darth Vader is a mess, and not in the hot way, in a very cold, suppressed way, and that's not what I feel. But like as a Jedi, Anakin was great, but he didn't really like live by the Jedi code. Where am I going with this? Off course. But anyway, I'm saying, love the Sith code, and I like my favorite parts of like all of the like uh, auxiliary Star Wars material. A lot of that was Sith stuff. Like one of my favorite bits about like the Old Republic video game was like the heavy spelunking they did into like Sith lore. You know, I love that. Great stuff in there, man. And like lots of the expanded universe had that stuff. And but it wasn't really explored much in the movies. You know, like you had Palpatine obviously, but he didn't really care about Sith philosophy. He cared about himself, and he'd use whatever it took to get there. Sometimes that was the Republic, sometimes that was the Empire, sometimes that was the Sith. You know, uh, and Darth Vader was just like a dude in a suit. Like he didn't really seem to like do much of that. Like Dooku was a political activist, and Darth Maul was an assassin. There wasn't like they didn't really like explore like the Sith stuff outside of that. They didn't go into like the deep stuff, and that's what I love. And this movie had a lot of deep, dank Sith stuff in it, and I loved it, man. So that was like that was like one of my favorite aspects of this movie, and even if it's like not the tightest of the new trilogy, it definitely had the most stuff I loved in it, and that was a big part of that. What else? Uh, hmm. But yeah, so related to that is the emphasis it placed on Palpatine. Initially, when I heard about like his supposed return, I didn't know where they were going with it. But I'm here for Star Wars. Like I'll take what they're putting out. But honestly, in execution, it felt more like the like wild reaches of the old, now defunct expanded universe um, of Star Wars, in terms of like just like taking uh, recognizable uh, stalwarts of the movies and just exaggerating them, like bringing them back and just exploding them in like crazy ways. You know, like, oh, we had this one thing everyone remembers from the like original movies. Let's bring it back, and even if it doesn't make sense, and they make it crazy till it makes like no sense. Like, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure I mean, like even the comics and like novels did stuff like that. Like, let's bring Palpatine back, but let's make him crazy. And oh, instead of firing Force lightning, he can open like wormholes now. You know, like I'm here for it. And uh, this movie did that kind of thing. You know, oh, he has Force lightning. Let's give him like Force storms, and he can bring down whole fleets of stuff. Like that is the stuff that you didn't really see in the movies. It was just like but it was the sorts of craziness you get in the extended material. And now it's like a big part of the movie to end this whole saga. So, and you know what? Even beyond that, it's just great to see Palpatine have fun. You know, like that was like my favorite part of Revenge of the Sith, or the final act of the Revenge of the Sith anyway. Because my favorite parts of Revenge of the Sith are the parts that feel like continuations of Attack of the Clones, and that whole aspect. You know, like the first opening scene. Like there was a time in my life where I just like pop on Revenge of the Sith and like shut it down after the first like 45 minutes, because like the first act is great, like just like more of that like swashbuckling Clone Wars stuff. Anakin and Obi-Wan, bosom buddies, cutting down droids, having a time. And then it gets heavy, and then Anakin stops being Anakin and starts being Darth Vader, and that's not fun. I mean, it's great, but it's not fun. Anyway, so yeah, but of the darker final act of Revenge of the Sith, I loved the part where Yoda and Palpatine are just hopping around, because Palpatine is having such a great time. He's cackling, he's laughing it up, he's living it up. He got what he wants. Now he's having a party. Gotta celebrate it. That's the Palpatine I like. And this movie had that. That was the Palpatine this movie had. So yeah, that was great. But listen, so I saw this with my family before Star Wars before like going to see the new Star Wars movie became a holiday tradition in my family. Middle Earth filled that role, and so appropriately, Rise of Skywalker did remind me in some ways of Return of the King. Primarily in the way that it's a final chapter that crams a whole bunch of things in, including rolling hills. But yeah, ultimately, I'm always here for more Star Wars, but in terms of an ending to a saga, this felt quite worthy.